I'm happy to welcome you here at Sofia University for the partnering meeting dedicated to the affiliation of Bulgaria to EATRIS-ERIC. And I'm sure you all know that this abbreviation stands for European Advanced Translational Research Infrastructure in Medicine. Our special guests for this meeting are Honorable Representative Eric, and these are Anton Ussi, who is Finance and Operational Director, and the two program managers, Martin Decourt and David Morrow. We will be happy to hear information about this infrastructure from them. This meeting is co-hosted by Bulgarian Ministry of Education and Science and Sofia University. So, without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Deputy Minister of Education and Science, Mrs. Karina Angelieva, to officially open the meeting. Please.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Professor Pastor. Please allow me to talk first in English to welcome our honorable guests, but then I would like to say a few things in Bulgarian, because I think one of the most important issues and gaps currently in our science society community is exactly the communication of science. First allow me to really say a warm welcome to all of you, and also to all of you in the room, because this is not something that happens every day. Basically, we used to host and to welcome very often our European partners, but I must say that last years we were so busy in coping with different problems and structural reforms that some of our communities was lacking a bit this international and European partnership and dimension, which was, I believe, very strongly covered during the Bulgarian presidency of the Council of the European Union. Last year, in 2018, in fact, Bulgaria holds the biggest conference in the European Union on research infrastructures. And it was Bulgaria. In fact, here with us also is our member in the European Strategic Forum, Professor Kovac. We raised on the agenda of the European Union the question about the sustainability of the research infrastructures. And I know that very often the word sustainability is losing sense in our dynamic society. But when we are talking for research infrastructures and for science and for research, the main factor is sustainability, because otherwise we cannot achieve our goals. Then I would like to tell something about our policies in the ministry and about the research infrastructures and why exactly EATRIS. I don't know how many of you are coming here for, so to speak, for the first time to hear what is EATRIS, where is your role, or all of you are aware. I'm not sure. Sorry that I would repeat myself, but if you open the website and if you check who is now member or observer in these pan-European research infrastructures, you will see that there are only 3 new member states. And I think this is very important. So I really thank you warmly that you welcome us in your European family. This is very important. Bulgaria now is being accepted as an observer, but we hope that we can work hard with you to become a full member in the consortium of this European pan-European research infrastructure. Of course, to become a member in such a family doesn't depend only because our guests here today are very nice. It depends very much on what capacity we have, what expertise we hold in this specific area, and the most important, we'll be able that we coordinate among each other and then we complement each other And this is really very high on the agenda of the Ministry of Education and Science, to make it possible, if it is possible, to forget a little bit some elements from the past and to start a new partnership between the research organizations, between the universities and the business, the industry. I know that very often we that are working in putting our heart and soul in research are a little bit reluctant when we are pushed to talk and work with industry, with business, that we're pushed to be more entrepreneurial, more innovative. But what we have today is exactly this. EATRIS is combining capacities and laboratories from all around Europe, exactly to translate the fundamental research quickly to clinical trials and to produce possibilities but also solutions for one of the areas that are most sensitive for our societies today. This is the health system, and on the other hand, I must say that this is one of the most quickly growing industry. So from this point of view, I must say that I am here today not only in my capacity as a Deputy Minister of Education and Science. I am here today as a true believer that we can again show that Bulgaria has capacity to be again in the European Union and to have capacity to cooperate and to do joint research with our European and world partners. Not to forget also that this year is 2019 is a very critical year. This year we should set the goals for the next 10 years. And this is one thing that is not disturbing the researchers because they know that something to happen requires a long time. So I believe that in research we can really, and we are able to set up the priorities for the next 10 years, and this is what we are now doing on European level. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we gathered all the ministers responsible for research and we agreed on the next priorities of the framework program on research and innovation. And one of the missions to decide, one of the areas where we want to show impact, this is, for example, the cancer research. So I believe that we can tackle all these challenges nowadays only because if we have good quality research infrastructures that also hold, of course, its openness, its researchers, so the human capacity, but it also has this, is embedding these principles of cooperation with business and society. The rest of my thoughts I shared yesterday with our colleagues from EATRIS, and as Professor Frankov said, we're working very well with the national research infrastructures in this area, and I hope this dialogue won't stop here. In fact, today I believe it's something like the first step, and we will be able to, with all of you in this room, I don't know from where are you, I know some of you, so at least I can recognize 5-6 different research organizations, which is already very good. And now allow me to say a few things in Bulgarian, if you don't need apologies for this.
Thank you, Ms. Sangileva. I'm happy that we have the full support from the ministry and personally from Ms. Sangileva and her team. So I hope this affiliation to EATRIS will be really successful.
To the Deputy Minister for hosting us and for supporting this process, and to the team of Science Directors for being so proactive, and of course to yourselves, Professors Grantjeva, and also for hosting us here, and also for taking the time to come and hear what EATRIS has to say. We have a lot of slides. We're going to try and go quite quickly through them. The idea is that you also will have access to the slides afterwards. There will be extra slides in there we won't present today, so you can go home and try and get an understanding of what EATRIS is and what it can mean to you and how we can work together in the future and how we hope to interact with you as well. we have already arrived yesterday, already had deep discussions, and what is good to see is that already the level of commitment and cohesion amongst the various people and the various organizations that are involved in this process is very good. In fact, one of the better countries I've seen in the 13, 14 member states that we're involved with. So you're already starting from a very good place, so we very much look forward to taking this relationship further. So Martin, can I rely on you on this slide? Okay.
Many pages as well.
Does that work? Yes, it does. Okay, so we come from the European Strategy Forum on Research Infrastructure. So this was basically the European member states deciding, okay, we work together on large telescopes and particle accelerators, but what else is there? So to create a cohesive long-term strategy around research, they developed this about 18, 20 years ago, and different infrastructures applied to become European infrastructures. And translational medicine was from the first wave. And the idea is to put together facilities, either distributed like ourselves or single site like CERN, to put cutting-edge scientific equipment and make it accessible and perform a high-quality research line. Sorry, this is very sensitive. Our legal entity was created for this purpose, called the European Research Infrastructure Consortium, in order to facilitate multi-member state participation in infrastructures. The previous model, using international treaties, is a very heavy governmental process, so they wanted to make an easier process. The ERIC was created. We were the first biomedical ERIC, so proud of that. In late 2013, we received our ERIC status. So what's the role of a research infrastructure in Europe? The idea is to safeguard the quality of the discipline, to increase the quality in biomedical sciences. Obviously, we have an issue around reproducibility. We think this is an important thing for the infrastructures to tackle. It's to professionalize and make accessible the facilities that are not that are unique, that are not so easy to get your hands on, to make it accessible to good research and good researchers, so that we utilize the capacity in Europe. We don't all have an NGS machine, a PET MRI, and all the latest technologies in every single facility, because it doesn't make sense. Let's spend our money wisely and smartly, and let's work on improving the state of the art, also through standardization, harmonization, looking for sources of variability, so that we can improve our ability to make solid discoveries and turn them into innovations. So this is a little bit of the context of translational medicine specifically, and I think two ends of the translational medicine pipeline are worth looking at, which are a bit scary. So if on the left-hand side, this is a slide from a publication by Leonard Friedman, based in the US. He looked at what are the sources of variability in preclinical research. And the circle there shows what's the estimated wasted research funding, which is about $28 billion in the US. So across Europe, you can assume it's going to be a similar amount. But what's interesting is that the sources of variability, the other blue boxes there, biological reagents, reference materials, study design, and laboratory protocols, are all actionable today. So we have 70% of the variability actionable today. So we have to do something about it. We are the people that can make the change necessary to improve the cost effectiveness of our research process. So this is the beginning of the pipeline, and at the end of the pipeline, this is showing the productivity. So how productive is every dollar that the global pharmaceutical industry spends on their research? It's been declining since God knows when, since the 50s, to a point where, in actual fact, the industry now, it's estimated, by the end of this year, I think, will actually have a 0% internal rate of return, which basically means it's not worth investing in the industry. So the cost of developing new drugs is becoming so crazy. And we know also with personalized medicine, which is a highly promising field, but the costs are terrifying, and is it sustainable? So we have a lot of systemic issues that we have to tackle together. And EATRIS is sort of the academic part in the middle of that. And so we have a lot of things to tackle. But we can still also focus on doing our own research and doing good research while looking at some of these issues. And so in translational medicine specifically, what's driving those failure rates is that we still see too many failures coming very late in the development pathway. So in the 4 phases of human research, it's really at phase 2 where you start to actually test the drug in the target population that you're trying to help. And it's still about 65% of the projects that make it there, and that's already having spent tens of millions of euros to get there, 65% of the projects fail just in that phase because of unforeseen toxicity, safety issues, but also lack of efficacy. Why is that relevant to us? Because academia are the groups that come up with the great new preclinical models that, if validated, can help us understand more early on, and that develop the new analytical technologies that, if we deploy them in the drug development process, can help us understand. For instance, molecular imaging, being able to put radioactive isotope, label it to the drug, so you can understand more about the pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic performance of your drug. These come from academia. The industry doesn't know how to use them, so they come to us and ask us how to deploy these tools. So we can directly influence something that seems so far away from us. So this, I'll just briefly skip over. These are interesting because on the left side is AstraZeneca, and they basically came up with these principles of 5 R's, understanding the performance of a drug. And if we can tick all these boxes, then we know that we have a fairly high chance. On the right side, Martin, which company uses the this is MSD? So the system on the right is another interpretation of translational medicine by MSD. So people are looking at what are the technical questions I need to ask to understand for early decision making. So this is interesting. It'd be worth, actually, if anybody's interested, I can get you the source articles for those. Because at its heart, what translational medicine is trying to understand early on in the development process what's going on, so that we don't have that late-stage failure. We want to get a better mechanistic understanding of what's going on, so that we can know with confidence that a specific pathway is responsible for pathogenesis and the development of the disease, and the drug we're developing is going to hit that pathway. So what do we have to do? We have to be multidisciplinary in that. And so there's the first challenge we have as academics, where we're used to going downwards into a speciality. We have to act broadly and collaborate in a team science approach with the clinician, with the biologists, and with the technologists who understand the analytical technologies, so that we can really get an understanding of what's going on. So translational research in academia is a challenge, because this multidisciplinarity goes a little bit against what we are incentivized to do in academia, because we're supposed to be the best at one thing, so that we can generate new knowledge, new discoveries, not confirm somebody else's discovery. And so it's a little bit at odds with what we're trying to do. But we have to do it so that we can go from the open question of discovery research and to go to a confirmatory approach, so that we can really convince society that this discovery is worth taking into a candidate drug and worth developing that drug first. Okay. So translational medicine, the approach is very much about, okay, I have a discovery, and now where do I go? And you go from that open question, you have to become very targeted. So you have to identify who's the patient or who's the healthy person that you're trying to make sure stays healthy. And then you start from that person, and you start from that target population, of course. You start from that target population, and you work your way backwards. What do I have to do to get there? So you do reverse planning from your marketing authorization, and you go backwards in steps. And this is, again, a little bit at odds with the traditional academic process, where you try to be hypothesis-free in your knowledge generation. So now I'll talk a little bit about EATRIS specifically, which will be quite useful, obviously. So our vision is really to have a long-term development where the development of drugs becomes more cost-effective, or at least doesn't become more expensive. Let's be realistic in our goals here, so that we can have affordable drugs that are effective for specific populations and that are being used by society. And we choose whether they're industrial or academic, and to work with regulators, and to work with healthcare providers, to work with patients, and to work with funders to support their needs in this space. So our approach is basically make the broad community available to the people that need to access whatever it might be, funding, expertise, or just some time at the table to discuss things. So the ecosystem is quite complex. As we talked before, we need industry. Without them, we can't get to the patient, because it costs so many millions. We need the regulator, because without them, we can't get to the patient, because they won't let us do a clinical trial. We need the public funder, and we need them to help to work with us to develop confirmatory research funding, which is different to discovery research funding, and it should be reviewed differently and executed differently. And obviously the patients, because we need to be sure that what we're doing is for their benefits as well. So we try and put this ecosystem together and make it accessible to yourself as a member, but also to yourself as a user, so that there's infrastructure services that you can provide to others, that you can use with others to support this multidisciplinary research, and also the best methodologies, and try and develop the next generation technologies to improve our development. So we have a hub and spoke model, and we're in Amsterdam, so in fact we call it the hug and smoke model, with our coordination office in Amsterdam and EATRIS-ERIC on the left, where each country has a node where there's, for instance, a national director, so Professor Konachir in this case with an organizing institution with then several institutions. And each country differs in size. We have some countries where there's just 2-3 institutions, and other countries where there's 15, 17 institutions involved. So the size is not so important. What's important is how you select who participates and where you want to focus your strengths on. And the idea is that you create a mini EATRIS in every country, because you want to be able to also use national funding to perform research. So you want to be able to do translational research nationally. You don't need to use us, and you can't spend money with us because the money needs to spend nationally. So create a translational pipeline in your own country, make yourself accessible there, and have access to the community there is the idea, so that you're working with your national regulators and your national small and medium enterprise and the funders and your communities. So just this year we launched our new strategic plan, and basically the timing is actually perfect, because the first 5 years we focused very much on creating a centralized process that we putting together an ecosystem at a European level. And so we're very focused, very inward looking. And now we are able to take the time to look more outwards and work with each of our member states and try and create these vibrant communities in each member state. And so the timing is great. We're learning that process at the same time as you. So we're not going to pretend we know everything. So we can learn a lot from you as well in that process. As I said, these slides will be available afterwards to anybody, so there's no need to try and read all this tiny text. So our governance, board of governors of the member states, so normally it would be a ministry representative of a funding agency, but they can delegate who the representative would be. They have the final say. So they basically tell us, you're doing a terrible job, go away, or no, it's okay, have some more money. But on the operational level, so the blue box on the far right is a national coordinator, somebody who would work with Professor Konachir. The Board of National Directors is the scientific representation and defines the scientific strategy for the organization, one member from each member state. On the left is the orange box is coordination, that's our office in Amsterdam, and then we are aligned around technical platforms. So the therapeutics platforms are vaccines, advanced therapies covering all 3 types of advanced therapies, gene therapy, cell therapy, and tissue engineering, and small molecules, and then we have imaging. So basically in vivo biomarkers and ex vivo biomarkers as the supporting technologies for the personalized medicine, translational medicine approach. And we're approximately 90 institutions around now, but we look forward to that number increasing when we become full members. So this is the team in Amsterdam. How many people is that? We're about 15, 16, maybe 17 people. We try to create a multidisciplinary team as well to reflect the translational approach. So on the top left is Professor Tony Andreu. He is our scientific director, and he sends his apologies that he can't be here today. He wishes you a good day and hopes to be able to work with you very soon. He's MD, PhD by training, and then the rest of the team, we have a combination of scientists, MBAs, legal counsel, people with technology transfer experience, that's my personal background as well, and then communications, education training. So trying to create translational medicine in the office as well, so that we're able to develop projects quite quickly. We're available to you anytime. Our job is to be available and be able to answer questions, help support, and develop things together. And the product platforms, so the technical platforms, there's a chair and sometimes several vice chairs from the institutes. So these are the 5 platforms. And then here Martin and David plus Florence Beatrix are the actual managers of those platforms. Florence is not available today due to a course, but they are the ones who you probably interact with the most. So what we do on a daily basis really is to drive user access. So we go out, we're trying to get companies to come and use us, we're trying to get academics, both academics from EATRIS institutes in another country to work together, but also people who don't know EATRIS to come and use us as well. So really that pure infrastructure, research infrastructure accessibility task. Very important and probably most relevant and interesting for yourselves is our own internal research agenda. So we're looking for the next generation tools. So if you have a biomarker that you think would be outstanding for patient selection for a specific indication, or you develop an actual new analytical technology that could be used in the process, we want to hear about it and we want to support you to take it forward if it's potentially of high value. Education, training, capacity building, obviously a very important part of what we do, and we'd be very happy to work with you on understanding what are the things where you feel you could benefit from best practice exchange with our community, and we'd love to develop workshops, seminars, and things together here locally. And in our office, obviously, as an infrastructure, we sit at the table with the European Medicines Agency, with the European Commission, with politicians. So we also need to look at some of the bigger problems. So we look at how can we improve framework conditions? How can we improve the process itself? So we also try and develop new ways of working together, new funding models. Funding is obviously always a huge problem. Today, we're not going to give all the examples of projects, but at the bottom of this slide set are a few slides showing some projects that we do to get you a feeling of the sort of things we do as well. So also to help inspire you to say, hey, I know a project that would be interesting. I'd like to take it to the EATRIS. So since we started operations in 2014, it took us a long time to build a portfolio of users. At first people were like, what? We don't understand what you do. We don't understand this. We don't see the value. I can use my sample collection that my friend has next door. I can use that NGS machine that I have down the street. And so it was really very hard to get people to come to the infrastructure. But now we've started to develop a bit of a name. There's definitely a lot more activity. People also are understanding the need for multi-site, cross-disciplinary, multidisciplinary research. And so now we have a portfolio of 116 and more users. On a daily basis, we have new projects coming in where people request our support. Sometimes that doesn't turn into a project. Sometimes it's just a bit of consulting support. Sometimes it's also the wet lab research process. But what we're proud of is that it's quite a good spread of different users. So academia accounts for actually less than half of our users. So we do have a big academic component, but we also managed to get companies to come and use the infrastructure, to come and use academia. We even have some funders who are our clients. We help them with their funding decisions. Right now, we're in the middle of a process where there's a charity in the Netherlands. They want to fund a medical device for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And they don't know how to analyze confirmatory research. They don't know how to look at intellectual property or the regulatory challenges. So they come to us and ask us to help evaluate that for them and work with the investigator in optimizing that project before they make a funding decision. So we're not trying to be reviewers and kill things, but we just want to try and make the process better. Also, very important, quality, reproducibility. I mean, we're very broad, so we're never going to be able to be an organization that says this is the standard and we're going to come and audit you. So what we've done instead is we do a bottom-up approach where if you're working on a technology and you're not sure where the variability is, we can help you work with your peers to do ring testing, to do proficiency testing, to try and find drivers of variability. We try and get involved in international initiatives, for instance, the SEQC2 consortium, the circulating tumor DNA consortium, global consortia, where we try and contribute to. So this again is also something that's of interest for yourselves, and it's a joint task we have to do together. Is really to try and reduce the irreproducibility. One thing worth mentioning is it's a very briefly mentioned it this morning, the Medical Research Infrastructure Alliance. So at the ERIC level, so the European level, BBMRI and ECRAN, so biobanking and international clinical trials and translational medicine. So really great joint services work together on that. And we signed this only a few days ago, and now we'll develop joint services, joint advocacy, joint education, and training things. So at a national level, it's up to you how to define your national infrastructures, but we do encourage the member states to also look at how they can collaborate closely with each other in the infrastructure scene. Okay, so what are the roles? So just for getting understanding, operationally, the role of us in Amsterdam is to try and make the access easy, make it useful, so that a company or an academic, so you don't have to wait 6 weeks to hear if we can help you when your funding deadline is 5 weeks away. To coordinate our internal research agenda, so the flagship projects that are very important to us. We try and coordinate those, try and help them get funding. We tackle systemic issues around reproducibility and standardization, long-term research infrastructure planning as well. What your role, or the national node, the consortium nationally, is to coordinate so that basically, I suppose I'm talking really to resisting here, the coordinating institutes and persons need to coordinate your activities here in the country, and then also act as a contact point for us to really make sure that things are being, that we're understanding what's going on here and that there's a short lines of communication. And also, in Europe, less than 10% of the funding is transnational. Most of the funding is at national basis. So you need to be able to utilize national funding for research as well. So you need to be able to do EATRIS Bulgaria projects in Bulgaria with Bulgarian money and only Bulgarian users and collaborators. So that's going to drive a lot of your activity as well. So you have to set yourselves up so that that's possible, so that you can do your own research, develop your own specializations and expertises, and then contribute where you're world-class, contribute to the EATRIS ecosystem. So the national coordinator, the roles that you could foresee doing, and this is something we'd be very happy to work together with you on to define what are the activities you specifically want to perform, but things like helping find partners when projects are happening, saying, hey, I know this great institute in Plovdiv, they have exactly that technology, that biological expertise, structuring the community, creating a translational medicine community, performing the outreach, so you go into also your national infrastructure, national industry here, having workshops and having outreach moments also with potential academic users, so the community knows about the existence of the infrastructures in the EATRIS, and also preparing grants together and trying to ensure that you're getting good infrastructure funding, and also contributing to the EU grant applications as well, and having local events. For EATRIS to be successful, it's very much what we experienced in the first few years was a lot of institutes, a lot of countries played a wait-and-see game. And they were just basically, standing there with a handout waiting for projects to come. And this is a very difficult barrier for us to overcome, because we're only as good as your science, and we're only as good as what we know about you. And so what it really takes you a need to be responsive. If you want to be part of EATRIS, we need you to be responsive. We need you to be able to react to things. If you are eligible, suitable for something, then we need you to respond to opportunities as they come, to be proactive. So also bring ideas, concepts to us, and be creative. We really want to hear the good ideas, we want to hear the projects, and we want to hear your creativity, because that will form part of our identity, and to be communicative and share that with us and share with your local communities, and also to be ambassadors for EATRIS everywhere you go. And the benefits to you of membership: we offer a wide range of support services to you, from capacity building, doing workshops together where you might have weak spots, from providing academic research grant preparation services. I'll explain more about that in a moment. Industry partnering as well. We try and build out a portfolio of industry users. You will have at some point national infrastructure funding. We don't control that process, obviously, but being part of an infrastructure that's on the national roadmap means you would later become eligible for that such funding. And if the idea is about creating new communities. A wonderful example, we had a meeting in Ljubljana last year where we had 4 guests from Bulgaria, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We had institutes from Oslo, Spain, and Italy, people who have never met each other before. This was in December, and right now they're submitting an application for immunomonitoring systems for immuno-oncology. People that have never met before and now are writing an EC proposal together. It will be successful, but the idea is that it's about getting access to new communities. So, excuse me. So we offer our academic users. We offer external users and internal users different levels of support. So, as an academic, we offer 4 levels of research grants and office support. So the first one being you're doing an application, you're missing a specific technology, an animal model. If necessary, we offer some expert services that are not so easy to get hold of, such as regulatory affairs, such as innovation management, industry outreach, intellectual property management, and these sort of things. And these are growing in importance in the SC1 proposals, the criteria, and the weight of the impact section is very high in the review process. So it's very important to have these well taken care of. And then the fourth level of support is if it's a project where we see it's a very important tool, something that really can support translational medicine in general, then we'll take it into our internal research portfolio and try and help create the network necessary to really get this clinically validated and in use in drug development programs. So it's really, that's our strategic research innovation agenda. I'm not going to, so these are the different levels, so you'll be able to see there more information about this. Some of this, even before your members, you'll have access to, but also at the same time, if membership is coming soon, then I'm sure we can also treat you as full members in that way. So these are also the various different types of expert services we can provide from Amsterdam. In the long run, we'd like to help each national node be able to deliver these services themselves, because already now we're at full capacity. So we're great if you have your own regulatory expert in the country who you can rely on for developing a development plan, your own technology transfer officers who can run the innovation management aspects. Because if we're doing that for all European projects in Amsterdam, we either need 200 people in Amsterdam or we can only do a couple of projects in there. So I'm going to hand over now to Martin, who's going to talk about some of the platforms. Again, it's a lot of information today. We're really sorry. Our email addresses will be at the end. Feel free to ask questions. Give us a call. We'll have a chat, teleconference, anything like that. Sorry for the thick information today.